Welcome to Sarah's Cozy Corner. Are you in the market for some good books to read, or maybe some books to avoid? I've got the list for you. Let's go. I'm about to drop the phone.
I read this book, There's an Owl in the Shower, to Michael this year. And we were so excited because look at this cute thing. Oh my gosh, who wouldn't want to read this sweet book?
It had a very surprising beginning.
Yes.
Like, shocking to my core.
We actually put it down for several months after reading the first chapter or two. We were like, no!
And then we just decided we have to finish it, so we pushed our way through the uncomfortableness. But it ends the story quite nicely.
It's cute, and we like it. And I'd recommend just be prepared.
Yes.
The Souls of Black Folk by W.E.B. Du Bois. It was really cool to read this part of history, basically the Civil War to about 1900, 1903 when this book was published. And from the perspective of someone who is living through it, it's not from a perspective of someone like today who looks back on accounts of what has been recorded and analyzing those. So I felt like that was a much more accurate picture of what was going on. And I like that he was very unbiased. He was really fair and didn't really seem to blame anyone. He just seemed to really be able to capture what white people were doing positively and negatively, and what black people were doing positively and negatively. And he explores how those things feed off of each other and add to what's going on. And it's really, really cool. And he helped explain a lot of things that happened right after the Civil War that I didn't understand. At the beginning of each chapter, it has a bit of a song. And the very last chapter is him explaining the origins of those songs. And it's really cool, you guys. This quote at the very end, and let me get it for you. Would America have been America without her Negro people? I just think that's beautiful. Like, if we could all adopt that sort of a mindset about everyone coming into this country, because unless you're Native American, you came into this country and as an immigrant, or your family did, and you helped contribute. And I just think that's such a beautiful perspective to have. Vinyl Moon by Mahogany Brown was a really great book. What I really loved about it most was it's about how kind of like the little things in life can make a big difference in your trajectory and can be life-changing. So it's really cool. Check it out. There's a bunch of other things it's about. I love it. When You Look Like Us by Pamela Harris is a really good book. If you're looking for a mystery that is not all about like murder and that sort of vibe, this is a book for you. It's a real page turner and it offers some really good truths in there, and I loved it. I Am Not Your Perfect Mexican Daughter by Erica Sanchez. I loved this book. It was so powerful, and I loved the way that it explored how family expectations and cultural expectations can shape who you are and your ability to be real with your family. And it was just great. You gotta read it. The Resistors by Gish Jen. I hope I'm saying that name right. This is a great book that uses baseball as a backdrop to address issues like prejudice and ignorance. It is a beautiful, deep, and thought-provoking book. I highly recommend. Lizzie Bright and the Buckminster Boy. This book is based on a true story about what racism, fear, and self-righteousness can do to people. At times it was very hard to read, but it's also such an amazing book. The Woman in Me by Britney Spears. I loved this book. It was brave, vulnerable, well-written, and super inspiring, especially the way that she wants to forgive the people who hurt her. It really made me think a lot about my own personal life, and that if she can forgive people, I probably can too. The Nest by Kenneth Opel, or Uppel, maybe. Anyway, this book was so great. It was kind of actually scary. I really loved it. It was like an older kid's version of a Stephen King book in the way it would like suck you in and you can't stop reading until you find out what happened. I highly recommend it. It's fabulous. Also, I loved the way that the chapters were marked by wasps alone. It was so great. You gotta check it out. Moo by Sharon Creech. This book is utterly delightful. Get it? Utterly. Anyways, seriously, I loved it. It's a book about the natural moments of change and growth you can have throughout your life and how beautiful it can be if you choose to embrace them. Also, this book has beautiful artwork on the back. Takes place in Maine. And
the way that the text is played with as it's printed on the page, it adds so much to the story, way more than the words would say if it was just printed typically.
They Called Us Enemy by George Takei is a heart-wrenching and beautiful memoir of his time in the Japanese internment camps during World War II, and it is told in the form of graphic novel. This is such a great way to tell a life story while bringing education and awareness about a part of history that's generally glossed over with a couple of sentences in school. And he uses this book as well as a call to action on present-day, eerily similar issues and situations. 110%. You've got to read it. We've got The Gilded Age by Mark Twain. I listened to it as an audiobook, clearly. This book annoyed the crap out of me at first. It was hard to listen to a story about people in poverty getting various opportunities for money and then squandering them due to ignorance or greediness, all while being in relative poverty myself and having a past where I had an inheritance and it got taken from me. It was very hard to listen to. I think if I had been in a different place in life, it would have just been a more enjoyable story. A couple of things. Very clear that there were some strong prejudices and not realistic ideas put upon the black characters in this book. That was gross. It was very gross. I almost quit listening to it. I know it was the age, but doesn't make it okay. And no bueno. It is revolting that that was ever permitted in society. I can't get into it. But I will say there were some more forward-thinking attitudes about women presented in this book, and I was pleased with that. So take it with a grain of salt. It was written a long time ago. Be prepared for that. Good story overall. Cool. Forward-thinking a bit about women for the time. You've probably heard of this book. I for sure heard about it on Modern Family, of all places.
I want to show you something.
Let me guess. It's a copy of The Book Thief that I begged you to read, but you wouldn't until your dental hygienist said it changed your life.
At first, I did not want to read this book because I thought it's going to be very sad, and it deals with sad events and topics, being in Germany during the Holocaust. Actually, it is one of the most beautiful books I have ever read. The way that he uses language is so individualistic. I don't know how else to say it. You've got to read it. It's so good. I love that it's a really unique perspective. We don't often see a book from this based in this time period from a German's perspective. It's really cool. And it even revealed some very soft prejudices I had that I did not even know I had. And I was able to kick them out. So very cool. You gotta read it. If you ever wondered why the heck Japan attacked America in World War II, like me, then you gotta pick up this book. Beverly Hills Spy by Ronald Drabkin. Picked it up thinking it was going to be fiction. It's actually not, you guys. It's very good. Some recently declassified information has been put together and written in a narrative nonfiction format. So it's a lot less dry than just a typical facts book, but not quite as awesome as a fiction book. But it's really amazing. You got to read it. It's great. Bits and Pieces, My Mother, Brother, and Me by Whoopi Goldberg is amazing and hilarious. Obviously the story of her life, but the different struggles she overcame and really funny stories all peppered in. It's inspiring, beautiful, funny, and I listened to the audiobook because it's read by Whoopi, so I recommend that, but I also got this book because the pictures inside are cute too. Zaytoon, written by Mark Eggers. I highly recommend this book. It is a true story, however, it's written in the style of fiction, so it's a very easy read and you process all the information very naturally, like you would reading fiction. It's a story about a strong and beautiful family who endured Hurricane Katrina while being separated from each other. And the husband in the family, pictured here, actually had to endure some pretty serious and horrifying racism and unfair and unjust things through the police and courts and government systems. And it was a horrifying eye-opener about those things that happen in America while our country still proclaims freedom, justice, rights, liberty for all. So if you're interested in hearing some more actual truth about the entirety of what happens in our country and getting inspired by a beautiful family story, please pick up this book. I listened to The Golem and the Genie by Helene Warwick on audiobook, obviously. It was really a good story overall. It felt slow starting for my taste, but once it got going, I was really invested in the characters. The story was very well built. I wasn't a total fan of the way it ended, but she wrote a very good ending. Although if you're trying to preview books for your kids and know what to talk about with them, if you're a believer in Jesus, this book does heavily suggest, while doing it in a kind of subtle way, that God's not real and that the religion is just a made up religion and not actually God's real. You have a relationship with him and he loves you. So that'd be a topic to discuss if you have a teen or a kid reading this book and you want to let them read freely, but also think critically about what's being told to them. There is some sexual description in the book. So also if you have a teen, it's not really graphic, but it's enough that if they struggle with staying pure and that sort of thing, I would just be careful. All right. I almost said love you. All right, love you. Read a book. Oh my gosh. This thing keeps falling. The Circadian Code by Dr. Sachin Panda is a really great read, full of scientific research and results. I would never have got this book. It looks like a cheesy, gimmick weight loss book. I think I had actually seen it in the library in previous years and passed over it because I was like, oh yeah, great. Lose weight and supercharge your energy. Ooh, But I was listening to an Andrew Huberman podcast and he talked about this book and said his friend wrote it and it's actually really good. Go check it out. So I did. And it's actually really great. And they explain the science and research in ways that kind of read almost like a novel, not quite like a novel, but that easy to read, can read it fast and actually absorb what is being told. So it's a great book if you're into learning more about circadian rhythms, even if you don't want to lose weight. Just please, it's very cool information. You learn a lot about your body, not just sleeping rhythms, but all kinds of functions within your body. I've noticed a difference after implementing the things that he's talked about in this book. I sleep throughout the night really well, and I can go back to sleep easy. And in the past 4 or 5 years, I've been waking up and not being able to go back to sleep a lot in the night, and I've been tired a lot. So this has been really cool. I highly recommend it. This book is amazing. I just finished reading it, and I had to come tell you about it right away. If you're looking for a good mystery, this is the book you've got to read. Hidden Pictures by Jason Ruckalak. First of all, cover looks great. And then this got me. It says, I loved it, from Stephen King. So, highly endorsed. Not gory, nothing sexually explicit, and it has cute pictures in it. It talks about this kid drawing pictures and then it has examples of them. I read this in less than 1 day. I could not put it down. Very, very good. Not a lot of books do that to me. This is the one. Hip Hop is History by Questlove. Amazing read. I went to school for music and this was a breath of fresh air listening to someone talk about music, someone who has knowledge, experience, expertise, and to hear them talking about it without an air of snootiness. It was really awesome. You learn a lot, and it's really cool hearing his perspective on how music shaped itself over the years. Stephen King's memoir called Stephen King on Writing. It's really amazing. Gotta read it. Even if you're not into being an author, I highly recommend it. He's a super fascinating guy. A good look into the life and mind of a man whose books we mostly all adore. The 100-Year-Old Man Who Climbed Out the Window and Disappeared. This book is super funny and a great reminder of what an adventure life could be if you keep the right perspective. I highly recommend it. It made me laugh out loud so many times. Rob Lowe's Love Life. It was great, very entertaining. I always like to listen to the audiobook if the author is reading it. Highly recommend. The Cartographers by Peng Shepherd is a book I highly recommend. At first, I thought it was really boring. I almost gave it back to the library after the first chapter or two, but I'm really glad I stuck in there because it is awesome. And eventually it'll pull you in and you can't stop reading it. It's a very good mystery involving maps. I hope you read it. It's worth it. The Peculiar by Stefan Bachmann. By all accounts, promised to be a wonderful, exciting, full of adventure and good stories. It wasn't. Don't read it. It was not that well written. in my opinion. And it had some kind of dark language, especially for a kid's book. Just really graphic all of a sudden with a violent image. Didn't like it. It ended poorly. A lot of storylines were resolved terribly or not at all. It turns into there's a sequel. It's clear there's a sequel at the end, but I have no interest in reading it. We barely got through this. I read it out loud with Michael, and he said, "Oh my gosh, no, that was terrible." And we're getting rid of it. We got this from a library sale. Sadly, this is not for us. I don't recommend it. The Faint of Heart by Carolyn Wilson. This is a sweet little graphic novel about the importance of not locking your heart away when you get hurt. I also really like it because it has an air of mystery about it. It's very good. I highly recommend. In Limbo by Deb J.J. Lee is a wonderful story that this author wrote based on her actual life. I really loved the growth aspects and dealing with those tough times of transition and figuring out who you really are and not just seeing yourself through the eyes of your family. It was a really powerful book and dealt with some really deep topics, and it really inspired me for the different writing projects I'm working on about my own life. So highly recommend, even if you're not a writer. Great, great read, and it could help you understand other people. Modern Family by Mark Freeman. Okay, this book's great. If you love the TV show, this is the book for you. It's full of little interviews with different writers, directors, cast members, and it does an overview of the whole series from initial idea in the two creators' heads to casting and all the way through to the end. It is a glorious read. Pictures, everything. It made me cry even in touching moments, and it made me fall in love with the series all over again, and I want to watch it again. You gotta read it. It's great. And if you don't like this series, I'd love to know why, because this is magnificent. Please comment in an actual productive way, not just a hateful way. I'd love to hear from you. But if you haven't watched it in a while, give it another shot, because it's so great. This title's so long, I just have to read it. Welcome to Dunder Mifflin, the ultimate oral history of The Office, as told by the actors, writers, producers, directors, and crew. Forward by Greg Daniels. Written by Brian Baumgartner and Ben Silverman. That's right, written by Kevin. If you like The Office even a little bit, this is a book you've got to read. It's amazing, it's insightful, it's inspiring, and it makes you feel like you get to know them even more. It's fabulous. You got to read it. And what I love about it, beyond all of that, what I love about it is the page quality of this book. It's almost like the thickness of a really nice cookbook. Like the pages feel really awesome to the touch. So a lot of fun little interviews and very, very well written. It's amazing. You got to read it. You're going to love The Office 100 times more than you already do. And you'll know cool facts to tell your friends. Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen. You may think this is an old-fashioned, boring town book, and I understand why you may think that. However, let me tell you, this book is hilarious, so relatable to today, and just an amazing read. It's all about characters, like who people are, and the little weird quirks they have, and inconsistencies, and just showing the humor in all of it, and how we can like trick ourselves about who we are and how perfect we think we are, and then find out, wow, I really sucked. And it's just great. It's a very good story. It's still relatable to today. The first time I read it, I did have to look up a lot of words in the dictionary and look up and understand some concepts from the time period it was written in. But once you get that, it's a very easy read, and you can relate it to like something that could happen today. So it's great. Please read it. It's wonderful. I Can't Make This Up. Life Lessons by Kevin Hart. I got the audiobook because, of course, he's reading it, and that's much better than me reading it because he's funny. This book was inspiring, hugely encouraging, and obviously funny. The one negative I do have about it is there's a very common use of God plus the D word. So I'm not a fan of that. If that doesn't bother you, you would probably love this book. I recommend it either way. The Hobbit by Tolkien. Really, do we need another review of this? No. Just read it. It's a great adventure, beautiful story. I read it twice this year. Once to Michael out loud when we were doing our move across the country adventure, and then I listened to this audiobook while I was doing Christmas baking. It's amazing. Read it if you don't know it. Read it. If you've watched the movies, that is not the same. Read it. I read most of the Harry Potter book series this year. I typically reread them if I'm needing comfort or if I just want something fun and familiar that feels like visiting a friend. These books are about so much more than a boy going to a wizard school. The themes run throughout all 7 books of courage, loyalty, what friendship is, what it means to be a good human, exploring the depths of a person's character and how you can have both good and bad struggles within you. It's an intricate, beautiful series that's so good for the heart. I hope you guys read them. And if you've watched the movies, it's nothing even close to the books. Please read the books. And I'd just like to add, all the people getting upset about Harry Potter having magic in it. I'm sorry, most of you probably love The Hobbit, and there's a full-blown wizard in there doing magic and stuff. And Disney's full of magic, everybody. Can we please just stop hating on Harry Potter for the excuse of, there's magic in it? That bugs me. All right, moving on. Little Women by Louisa May Alcott. If you haven't read this, please don't dismiss it as just a really old-fashioned book about boring stuff, whatever. It's so relatable to today. I literally read this every year. It's just such a heartwarming, beautiful story. I love it because it takes me back to like what matters and the kind of values that I want to remember to have. Like, people and my character are more important than my possessions or how I appear to others. You know, just it's a really centering book, and it's so full of humor and love and beautiful moments. I read it out loud to Michael last year, and he loved it. So not just a girl book, it's a good human all-around book. Also, I'm very sad because my copy of it is falling apart. I do have another copy of this book that a very special person to me gifted. A very special person in my life gifted to me. And I'm actually glad that this one kind of fell apart and I get to read that one and think of that sweet young woman every time I read it. So it's all good all around. Anyway, thank you for joining me in this wild adventure of rapid fire book reviews. I love you all. That's all I got. Thanks for tuning in. Go read. Yes, go on, noisy truck. This is a beautiful book. Fuck it. Starting over. It inspired me. Go. Also, I just saw this the whole time.
No, what's happening? Why did it take a picture? Oh, I just angle it better. It's crooked. It's gonna drive everyone in the world crazy, including me. Oh, maybe I should just do it like that. There's the stupid thing. You know what? If this one's a little crooked, it's a little crooked. I will hurt everything. I will hurt it. The chair's crooked. The thing is crooked. Oh, I solved it. Okay, very good. Don't touch anything now.
Strong, beautiful. I already messed up. In being able to sleep better. Nor does it really have much sexual content in it at all. Can you talk like you know what you're going to talk about? That'd be cool. This title's so... Oh, it's bright. I can't make this up. Life Levens. Life Levens! Oh, I finally did it!